Good afternoon, Dr. Carmen Bryant, Psychological Health Consultants and Services, and Redefining Yourself, a program developed for women that are leaving or in or contemplating or trying to learn more about domestic violence, specifically narcissist abuse, especially if you're recovering from it. As I have discovered that many times when I begin to explain narcissist abuse or narcissism or what women have gone through, many times they're in denial. They're hurt, and they ask more questions about why did this happen? Why did they not love me? As I always say in every video, I acknowledge the fact that men go through it just as much as women do, but this program was developed for the women that are going through, and so this is not a program where we attack men, but we just address the narcissist abuse from a female standpoint and from female experiences. I do also, acknowledge sometimes the difference between the two. And we'll talk about that later on as I begin to go through the diagnostic statistical manual at like some of the similarities and some differences that you may find between a female narcissist and a male narcissist. And so I just wanted to come on really quick and wanted to explain that when you're, as a clinician, when we diagnose, we look for a cluster of behaviors or a cluster of symptoms that are grouped together that define a mental health disorder or emotional or, for example, like post-traumatic stress disorder. With post-traumatic stress disorder, you'll find depression, you'll find anxiety, you find hypersensitivity, hypervigilance, nightmares, you'll find triggers, panic attacks. So there's a lot of cluster, and it usually points to that that individual has been traumatized, whatever that trauma is. Some people assume that the only way that you can have post-traumatic stress is if you served in the military and gone to war, but that's not true. Post-traumatic stress is any traumatic event that has happened or you witnessed, but it comes with a cluster of symptoms. Likewise, with narcissistic personality disorder, and as we discussed it previously on where we used to use the 5 axis, where the first axis was that of emotional or behavioral problems such as major depressive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorder, etc. And then the axis 2 was that of personality disorders. Axis 1 can be changed, even helped with medication and counseling. However, personality disorders on axis 2 cannot be changed. And so I wanted to show you something in regards to some similar personality disorders. So we know we're dealing with narcissistic personality disorder. Many of you have heard of sociopath and psychopath. I was reading some work by Dr. Michael Tompkin. Let me look it down at the paper as I'm talking. But Dr. Michael Tompkin, he's a psychologist at Sacramento County Mental Health Treatment Center, and he was describing the differences and similarities between sociopath and psychopath. Sociopath and psychopath are also some behaviors that a narcissist also displays. In narcissistic personality disorder, you have a cluster of different personalities as well. Sometimes they can have another defined personality disorder, such as borderline personality, psychopath, sociopath, which is actually called anti-personality disorder. But they have different clusters for females, histrionic personality disorder, and we'll talk about that in detail a little later. I just want to focus on the sociopath and psychopath. And so they have similar traits in their personality disorder. They're called anti-personality disorder. So I think, as he was saying, that it's more recognized now as anti-personality disorder, but it was formerly as sociopaths and psychopaths. So normally when you hear about psychopaths and sociopaths, you hear it on television or in movies where they're murdering and killing and these crazy people that are in prison. And so let me just show you this. So the sociopaths and psychopaths have poor inner sense of right and wrong. They're unable to share others' feelings. Psychopaths, in particular, lack a conscience. They lack conscience. They usually watch others and mimic what they do, their facial expressions. They mimic what they say. They mimic like the emotions. They mimic. Same as the narcissist, they mimic. They act, but they lack morals. And so sociopaths have a conscience, but their conscience is weak. They may feel a little remorse or guilt about doing something wrong, like stealing, or but at the same time, it doesn't stop them. They still do it. Both of them lack empathy. As the narcissist, they lack empathy, and psychopaths have less regards for people in general. They see people as objects used for their own benefit, like the narcissist. The narcissist sees people as sources of supply. The longer you've been with a narcissist, the better of a source of supply you've become. And they usually connect with other people for sources of supply, friends or families, but if you're like the wife, girlfriend, the longer you've been in the relationship, the better source of supply you are for them. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So as I was saying earlier, like a lot of the movies or newsreels, by the time you hear about, this person was diagnosed with psychopath or sociopathic personality disorder and he murdered, but normally in real life with anti-personality disorder, in real life, normally they can be violent, but they manipulate a lot. They have reckless behavior, and that's all in order to get what they want, just like the narcissist. And so they also, both sociopath, psychopath, narcissist, they'll do anything to climb the corporate ladder, meaning step on toes. It doesn't matter, at the expense of anyone, to get to where they want to be or where they want to go to be seen. Narcissists, they're very extreme when it comes to, you think of pride and vanity and arrogance. Think of that times 1,000. They don't value other people's feelings, their ideas, and they ignore the needs of other people because their needs are more important than their needs. Now, I'm going to say something. I know it sounds very, very harsh, but just to explain the intensity of a narcissist by kind of describing like animalistic behaviors. For example, a narcissist is like a parasite. That's what they're like. They're like parasites. They're predators. And so you know that a parasite will connect to a host, and they get supply from the host. Nutrients, they get it from the host. Along with like the CDC, which is the, CDC, that I know what the acronym is. I know what the definition is. The CDC, the disease control. But what they talk about is like parasites also have disease in them. And so they may hook or latch onto, for example, a human host to get nutrients, or let's say an animal or something to get the nutrients, but they also will spread disease. And so while they are sucking the nutrients out of their host, they also have put in disease into the host. Think about it for a minute. A narcissist attaches to a host supply for a purpose of getting supply, whatever their needs are. As they're doing it, they're draining the person. They're draining the individual of self-esteem. They're draining the person of energy, because narcissists are people with a lot of energy, and they're very diligent about breaking down the host. And at the same time, imparting disease, those thoughts and low self-esteem and suicidal thoughts. The host will begin to have suicidal thoughts. The harassment, the physical abuse, the mental abuse. And so they're giving something while they're taking something from the host. Now, there's another animal that kind of reminded me of a narcissist as well, the cuckoo bird. The cuckoo bird, if you read, in nature about the cuckoo bird is like a parasitic bird. The cuckoo bird does not take responsibility of raising their own young. So they don't take responsibility for their young. They go find, I think it's the magpie bird, and they usually lay eggs in another host bird's nest and force them to be responsible for raising their young. It gets to a point where they're willing to risk the chance of being attacked by these birds just to lay an egg in this nest to have another bird raise their young. And the cuckoo birds, usually when they lay eggs in these nests, sometimes what happens is that the birds are bigger. The cuckoo bird is bigger than the host birds. And so a lot of times what ends up happening is the host baby birds are killed because this giant cuckoo bird is in the nest, and then the host parent is having to feed this cuckoo bird, and the bird is bigger than the bird that's feeding them. So think about it, the host bird is almost starving that to feed this cuckoo bird. So that is also almost like a similar characteristic of a narcissist. So let's go on to like some behaviors. If you remember the movie Terminator, remember the robot was created to protect John Connor at all costs. Those of you that remember Terminator, it was my favorite movie. But the Terminator, the robot, was created to kill John Connor before John Connor had to go and reprogram the robot to protect him. But this robot went after him at all costs, even damaging itself. And while it was being damaged, even the hand was still pursuing John Connor. Later on, the robot was programmed. He was programmed to kill him at all costs, even up to destruction. And when he was programmed to protect him, he would protect John Connor at all costs. And remember, there were more robots being created, like that liquid, that lets you know how much I like the movie, that liquid robot that he went to all costs to try to kill John Connor. Well, a narcissist, when you have discovered that you have value and you make a choice to leave the narcissist, or you decide to stand up and put boundaries up, and remember, your boundaries hurt their feelings, so they'll take your boundaries and tell you how awful you are for having boundaries up, because you're taking away their right to express themselves, to do what they want to do, but they're doing it at the expense of you. And so once you discover and you make a choice, if they have not locked in another supply, because they have supply, but if they have not locked in a supply of equal value than you'll get punished for leaving before they can lock in another supply. And so what you'll see is for example, that's why I always tell women, if you, when you're going through a divorce and you've discovered that this person is violent and they have narcissism or have narcissistic traits, it's best for you to get a lawyer that is skilled in high conflict cases, that is familiar with domestic violence and understands, because they will go to all costs to embarrass you, to humiliate you, to make you look less than a parent. They'll do whatever they can despite destroying their own self while they're doing it. And so this is how vicious a narcissist, an abuser with narcissism can be. They'll play on your emotions because, number one, they know you care about them. And so, for example, if let's just say they physically assault you, and your focus is now, how can you do this? And look what you've done. I have a black eye. They will find a way to divert the attention from your pain onto themselves. They'll fiend sickness. All of a sudden, they have to be rushed to the hospital. They're having a heart attack. They're going to commit suicide. I know of one individual. She was telling me that her husband took Motrin, was laying on the floor pretending like he had died or was dying. And she said, I just stood there and stared at him and to see how long he could hold his breath. This is how dramatic they are. Or threats of suicide. Remember, that's a part of the domestic violence. Threatening suicide to force you to focus your attention on them or change your mind about your decision. And normally, when they do that, they can divert your attention to them because now you're concerned. And they know, because they played on your emotion, they've groomed you. And they could care less. They just want you to focus on them and not focus or they don't want to take accountability or responsibility for their actions. Let's see. We already know that they have problems with empathy, and so you may care for them, but what happens is with the victim is a lot of times you care for them so much to a point where you neglect yourself. For example, leaving, and you're more concerned about their well-being than your own well-being. But there's a reason why you're leaving, and you can't forget that fact. You can't, a lot of times they'll bring up all the wonderful things that you guys experience, but there's a reason why you're unhappy. There's a reason why you're sick. Do you know that there's too much stress when you experience, and they put you in stressful situations all the time. The level of stress in your household, the level of stress in your house, but stress can kill you. Stress can kill you. So keep that in mind. Stress can kill you. and when you have that amount of stress in your system, it breaks down your immune system, where it's unable to fight diseases out of your body that was supposed to be that fought out of your body. Women that have a lot of gastrointestinal problems, ulcers, IBS, Crohn's disease, constant headaches and fatigue, anxiety, all this is you're in constant fight or flight or freeze, constantly. Your body is constantly has adrenaline pumping through it, but your body doesn't know, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Are we going to fight? What are we going to do? So the reason for the adrenaline to be pumped into your system, because your body is letting your body know, I need to do something. And as a trauma professional in my training, one of the things that I also learned is that, and I speak to hunters a lot. I was telling someone, a hunter would tell you that you never want to shoot a deer once you have spooked the deer, because it makes the meat tough. Because all that adrenaline is pumping into that deer, so it makes the meat tough, and people like tender meat, hopefully. So when you have like that tough and kind of bitter meat, is because they shot them once you spook the animal. So you don't want to spook the animal, you want to shoot the animal while it's relaxed, because once it starts running, the adrenaline doesn't have time to get into its system. But the adrenaline, the purpose of the adrenaline, what happens is when that adrenaline starts pumping, the brain brain lets the body know, I need to slow down the organs, I need to slow down the blood flow that's in your system. It's to reproduce the red blood cells to fight disease, but it slows down your organs, it speeds up your heart rate, and so think about that. If you're in constant fight or flight, you're constantly anxious like that, you constantly have all that adrenaline pumping inside of you, eventually you're going to kill yourself. Stress can kill you, heart attacks, heart disease, strokes, but this is the situation that a lot of women are in with their abusers. And the narcissist purposely creates an environment and keeps an environment like this, so that you can just say, whatever, whatever. It's better for me just to go ahead and give him what he wants and to have peace than to. But they create that environment for you to do exactly that. So let's see. What they'll do is to cater to your emotions. A lot of women will say, but he does care, and he does show that he cares because he does this. And well, the reason why they're doing what they're doing is like an emotional drug. It's almost like they not euthanize you, but there's almost like they drug you up to calm you down and make you feel good. In order for you, if the violent part doesn't work, then they'll soothe you, with I love you and baby and this and I'll never, and to soothe you and calm you down. But what they're doing is they're actually conditioning you. And if you watch the other video, they're actually conditioning you. So let's look. I have a lot of good notes here. Hopefully I can get through all of them. I was writing notes to myself. So they'll put you in this state of mind that you should be grateful that they're with you, because they have this huge self-inflated, this gigantic ego. And so they will have you believing that they're the best thing since moon cheese or sliced bread, they're gourmet. But they'll convince you that they could have done better than you and they settled, or they could have done better because all these type of women wanted me. And like I said, I understand that men go through it too. Women do the exact same thing to men that are narcissists. But in this case, we're talking about the men. But they'll groom the woman into believing that I'm the best, the cream of the crop, and that look at these type of women. Or you have men that like divorce a wife and remarry, and then what they'll do is always throw into the new source of supplies face the achievements of the ex-wife to make the new wife or girlfriend feel grateful that you left someone of that standard to come to someone with me. Well, 9 times out of 10, they left the last one. Either the last one was discarded because they found no more, that has depleted the source of supply, or the other person has woke up to realize what they were going through. And so the new source of supply is just as ignorant as you were when you met the person. You're unaware of the game that they're playing. And so that individual that they're with is just like you when they met you. And remember, they wooed you, they hoovered you, and those are some words that we'll talk about. But they manipulated you into believing that they were the greatest thing since sliced bread. So now they believe the exact same thing, and oh my gosh, he left someone like her to be with me. Oh my gosh, this is a person of value. That's not true. So let's see, what else do I have here? They'll always test to see how much control they have over you. They'll always test to see, They may threaten to leave, and they want to see you cry. One thing that they thrive off of is when you lose emotional control. It's almost like a drug to them. When you lose emotional control, you cry and don't leave me, or whatever you do to show them that they're always going to test you to see how far they've gotten with you. But this is their test. This is them testing to see how manipulative they have been and how much control they have over you, especially when you lose control of your emotions and you become emotional, even in your hurt or pain when they've hurt you, or when you express emotion. It's almost like a drug. It's like they get high off of that. Let's see. One thing that a narcissist hates with a passion, and this is what I tell women, the best way to get back at a narcissist, to pay him back for everything that he's ever done, is to make him insignificant. When you make them insignificant and you learn to heal and you become productive and you become everything that he told you that you couldn't be, that is what destroys their ego. And it's not, you do not go seek to be great because you're trying to pay a person back. What you have to do is make them insignificant to recover and to move on in your life. Whether by that time you won't even care. It won't even matter. It won't even matter. Let's see. If a lot of times they will try to punish you over and over and over again, especially if the new source of supply cannot measure up to you. If the new source of supply cannot, because for some women, they have been in relationships for a very, very long time with the narcissist. And so you have become a very good source of supply. If you abruptly leave and they're having to settle for the new source of supply, remember, they haven't had enough time to groom them as long as they had to groom you. And so you were a great source of supply. They're having to start all over again, and they're having to step out of their comfort zone of where they come from you to step into this new. And so they're constantly, like the Terminator, constantly trying to punish you. And they think about it, and they're dissatisfied with the new source of supply, because that new source of supply is not their old source of supply. So they're agitated, they're upset. And the sad part about it is you have another person that's caught up in this drama, innocently hoping to care for this person cares for them, and has no idea they've got caught up in this cycle, that the narcissist actually doesn't care about them like they thought they did, that they have been manipulated into believing, and then basically bearing their soul to this narcissist, but the narcissist does not equate them to the last supply that abruptly left. For some, abruptly left. And for some, they may find a better source of supply that has more money because they've depleted you of money, so they may find one that has better money, or maybe on television, or has a job that puts them in the limelight. Remember, they're like what's the lizard? The chameleon. They try to blend in whatever environment they're interested in. If they want to be a rapper, they're going to try to portray themselves as a rapper. If they want to be associated with people with money, they will go to all extent, even to the point of not bankruptcy, but to a point of being impoverished, struggling with finances, all to blend in with this group of people. They watch them. They watch them to see how they talk. They watch their facial expressions to see what kind of facial expressions. And remember, it's learned behavior. If I do 1, 2, then this right here will elicit this response. Oh, when I do this elicits this response. So they know what they're doing. When I say they know what they're doing, they know the act of conditioning. So it's not a matter of emotions, it's a matter of conditioning, and you're responding. If I push this long enough, you'll respond. Oh, so if I push this again, you'll respond. That's how their mind functions. It's all about conditioning and watching how you respond. So it's not about building rapport and true empathy toward other people. Let's see what else. Well, I think that's probably it for today. All these notes I wrote, it seemed like it was like an hour worth of notes that I was writing to myself. It was good stuff. I was like, wow, I think this is something to talk about. So as I said, hopefully this has helped you. This is giving you some more information. Tomorrow I'll be back in my office, and when I go back in my office, we're going to look at the Diagnostic Statistical Manual number 5. This is the one that the clinicians are working off of now, and they no longer have the 5 axes. Everything is written out. We write it all out and put all the diagnoses on there, and everything that may contribute to those diagnoses. And so hopefully this has helped you a little bit. And see, now you see when we say, when you hear people that have narcissistic personality disorder, it's on the same level as those that are psychopaths, that have psychopathology or psychopath and sociopaths. Narcissists are at that same level as they are. So you see how serious this personality disorder, do you see how serious this is? And later on, we even talk about like some torment techniques that they use. Like I said, it's all about conditioning the human mind, and the human mind is the most powerful thing, but it's so easy to manipulate. It's so easy to train and retrain, and so hopefully with this information that I provide, it will give you a different perspective about yourself. It'll help redefine you, redefine what you've been thinking, and even redefine what has been told to you. I was amazed because I myself, not only was I in the military, but also when I came out of the military, I was a first sergeant in the military, so I had soldiers. And soldiers are easily influenced with poor leadership and with good leadership. A lot of them are hurt and broken. So you can lead them wrong, or you can lead them right and with compassion. And I've met a lot of narcissists in the military, and they hide behind the power and the rank, and they assume that all these people are their followers. And so they have taken advantage of a lot of people, and I've watched it happen, especially when women are coming in that are recovering from military sexual trauma by people that thought they had the right to do whatever they want to do, have the right. You have to, in order to be promoted, And so, domestic violence in general, sexual assault, and even narcissist abuse, is horrific what it does to the human mind. And to watch people that are recovering from or suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder is equally distressing. I am, by trade, a certified clinical trauma professional and a licensed mental health counselor, a life coach. And so, and that's why I created the program Redefining Yourself, because I really wanted to come and talk and provide psychoeducation, because the more knowledge you have about the situation, I'm not going to say it's easy to come out of the situation that you're in, but the more knowledge you have, the more empowered you become. And let me end this video by saying this. When you're in the process of recovering from such painful life experience, whether it was with parents, because you do have parents, and people that are in narcissistic relationships are coming out of it. 9 times out of 10, you probably have family members that also were narcissistic or had narcissistic personality disorder or narcissistic tendencies. But when you come out of an environment like that, sometimes it takes time. It does. The process takes time. It takes time to recover from such painful experiences, that another human being could treat you the way that they treated you when all you wanted was to be loved, all you wanted to be is respected, you wanted to to have a good life with a person that you love, to security. When you're coming out of a situation, to picture it like this. In my house, everything, if you look at, well, I'm not going to show you my house, but, everything is in place. Everything is clean and everything is neat and everything is in place. Once a year during the summertime, my daughter leaves for the summer to go be with her father. And so I call it my big summer annual cleaning. Well, my house looks very, what it looks like is very, very clean. When I start pulling stuff out and deciding what I'm going to throw away and this has no need and it shouldn't be here, my house looks horrible. It's almost chaotic, and that's why I learned, instead of doing all at one time, do one room at a time, one cabinet at a time. So I go through all the cabinets, I go through clothes, I go through, and it's not a very a large space, but you have the cabinets, you have the closets, and so you're going through each, but it seems like a drawer this big may have miles and bags of stuff that you don't want anymore. And I'm almost fascinated, like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I have this much stuff in here, but it becomes chaotic. But in the midst of the chaos, as the dust begins to settle, as I tell people, in the midst of all that, the whole purpose is to bring everything back online, to bring everything back in its proper place, to take stuff that is unnecessary, things that you no longer need, out of that environment so that you can have a better environment, an environment of less stress. Spring cleaning is ugly, fall cleaning is ugly, summer cleaning for me is very ugly. But when you're done and you walk around, you feel at peace, you feel everything is in order, and you're less stressed, and all that stuff just stresses you because it's just not in place. And I just don't like it not in place, But that's the same way with your life when you're recovering from traumatic events such as domestic violence and narcissist abuse. I always tell people that when you go to a doctor and you have pain, they're going to probe. They're going to do tests to figure out where that pain is. They'll do it from most evasive to most invasive, which is what results in surgery. But they're going to remove something that is painful. And then the pain that you feel after that is the pain of healing, the pain of recovering, the pain of recuperating, to have to go back and learn how to use a limb again through physical therapy and medication. And then you can talk about it, but it was necessary for the doctor to inflict a new pain so that you can recover from the last pain. And sometimes the new pain that's inflicted to correct the old pain seems almost more painful than the original pain. And so I just wanted to bring you that because that's a process of healing, especially when you've been hurt for so many years by someone that didn't even care about themselves. Hurting people hurt people. And so, and misery loves company. And my father always said, if you hang with dogs that got fleas, you're going to get fleas too. And so I just wanted to give you this information. Hopefully this has helped someone. I hope this has touched someone in recovering. There are a lot of resources out there. I'm going to start posting resources too. For those of you in the Washington state and national numbers, I want you to be able to get help. I want you to be able to reach out and talk to someone about your situation, to figure out a safe way to get away and rediscover yourself, and redefine yourself. Thank you again for tuning in. You can go to my YouTube channel. It's Dr. Carmen Bryant, recovering from narcissist abuse. Also, I have a Facebook page, which is Psychological Health Consultants and Services. It has my information on my personal website and information to contact me. My email address is Dr. Carmen Bryant, DrCarmenBryant at outlook.com. You're welcome to send me comments. You're welcome to send me subject ideas. If there's something that you want me to talk about from a clinical perspective, let me know and I'll talk about it. I will also post whenever, if you are in the Tacoma, Seattle area, when we begin to have a group to get together. I'm going to find a conference place, a conference area that we can come together for a nominal fee. And you're welcome to come out. We can meet and greet. We can talk about things. I want to introduce you to other people that have overcome abuse and have become powerful women, women that are in powerful places. And in the last video, I made the comment, and I thought about it after I made it, it sounded as almost as if I was saying, and I want to apologize for that because that is not what I was conveying, where I said that, a narcissist will find a woman in power and a woman that holds powerful position. Narcissist abuse does not have economic barriers. It doesn't matter whether you're impoverished, whether you're middle class, or whether you're wealthy. It has no economic barriers. It does, a person with domestic violence happens at all economic statuses. So if I misquoted, or misspoke, and I apologize for that. Hopefully you tune back in. Go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Carmen Bryant. Like, subscribe so you can see whenever I post something new. And thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your time. I know it's very valuable, and you guys be great.